Hi, everyone. Welcome to the show. Support for the show comes from ZBiotics. I want to tell you about something that I actually use before a night out. It is called ZBiotics Pre-Alcohol. Here's the very simple version. When you drink, alcohol turns into this toxic byproduct right in your gut. It's that buildup that's what makes you feel rough the next day. ZBiotics is the first genetically engineered probiotic designed to break that byproduct down before it ruins your mornings. So I tried it before dinner with friends where I knew I had a couple of cocktails. I was going to have a couple of cocktails, and I drank it before my first drink. I didn't think much about it. And the next morning I woke up clear. No fog, no dragging. I was actually good. That is the difference. So whether it is holiday dinners, game days, or a night out with friends, make pre-alcohol your first drink of the night. Drink responsibly, and then thank yourself the next day. So go to zbiotics.com/lemon. Use the code LEMON for 15% off of your first order. They even offer a 100% money-back guarantee, no questions asked. That's zbiotics.com/lemon. Use the code LEMON. Now, let's get started. Good morning, everyone. I hope you had a good weekend. I did. Finally, I got some rest, and I think my cold and whatever is finally 100% gone. I had still a runny nose. Okay, so, anyways, I didn't plan on doing this, but so this is what happened this weekend. You ever have one of those like days you're like, the weekend, I said I'm going to do all the paperwork and all the things that I need to get done. It's this way, all the stuff that I need to get done, and then that way, I can devote all of my morning. Let me fix this. I can devote the next week to just, focusing on New Year's Eve and blah, 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 blah. I'm trying to get this camera straight. And so I said, okay, that's what I'm going to do. And then someone in the chat, I don't know who it was, but I thank you, said, Don, turn off your phone and just, I'm cleaning my glasses. That's why I'm looking down. Turn off your phone and then just let your body wake up whenever your body is ready to wake up. And I did that on Saturday, and let me tell you, 12:30, I woke up, and I didn't know where I was. I woke up and I said, oh my gosh, where am I? And it was amazing. I was surprised that I slept that late. I woke up and I fed the dogs at like 6 o'clock, and I went back to bed, and then 12:30 in the afternoon, and it was amazing. So I still have a little bit of a remnants, but I feel 100% better. And I think it's just working too hard. My friends and everybody knows they're like, oh my God, Don, you're burning the candle at like 14 ends. Pardon me. And I am. And so I have been. So I just took some time for myself this weekend. I think we all needed to do that. I took some time for myself, and I got to tell you, I feel better. I look a little sleepier, but that's okay. Because, sometimes when you sleep like that, it makes you groggy. But take some time for yourself and you'll feel a lot better. Thank you all for joining this morning. Okay, we can start with that. Also, please hit that like button, the thumbs up. Thank you so much. Don always sick. No, I didn't shave this morning, but I always have a runny nose. That's just my thing since I was a kid. I've always had that. And that's mainly allergies. And I'll catch a cold if you look at me. That's, same thing. Okay, so welcome YouTubers, welcome Twitchers, welcome Facebookers, welcome Instagrammers, welcome TikTokers, welcome Substackers, all of you guys. Thank you. Welcome to the program. Hit the like and the thumbs up. We appreciate it. So I am so glad to be with you this morning. I can't tell you how happy I am that everybody's here and healthy. It's Christmas week, and we have a lot to be grateful and thankful for. And let me just start by telling people, if you are, no matter how you're feeling this holiday season, or whatever you're feeling, make sure you check in with people, check on yourself, talk to someone, therapy, all of those things, okay? I believe in that because it's going to be a tough time for people. A lot of folks are happy, and a lot of folks are not so happy. Let's just be honest about that. I'm going to move this back a little bit. I think it's a little too close. So I'm not in my normal studio. You guys know that. All right, that feels a lot better. I don't feel like this camera's like right up in my face. And this is not my normal studio. So anyways, I'm making do. All right. Guys, can we talk about these Epstein files? There is some shenanigans going on. I'm just going to be honest with you. I don't trust these things. I have to be honest. I just don't trust them. You can't trust the Epstein files release. I didn't trust it before it dropped. I told you that last week. that I don't trust it. And I trust it even less right now. Because look, the more you look at how this was handled, the harder it is to pretend that it was just some bureaucratic hiccup or something like that. Because when something is, I don't know, if it's real, when it's clean, when it is honest, it doesn't come out like this. And this doesn't feel any of those things. It doesn't feel honest. It doesn't feel clean. It feels nothing like that. It's actually really, really, really quite frightening. It doesn't come out this late. It doesn't come out as rushed as it has been. It doesn't come out with hundreds of pages blacked out. There was a joke, I think it was on SNL, that they stopped doing it because they ran out of black ink because they were just redacting every single thing. It doesn't come out with files disappearing, and it definitely doesn't come out with survivors saying that they were harmed while the government tells everyone to calm down. That's what they're telling people, and to calm down. There is some shenanigans going on. It's bullshit. And we know from the pictures, even from the files that have what has been released, some of it's not even from the official files. All of these pictures of Donald Trump, where did they go? Why didn't they release them? And they say they want to protect people. They have been redacting people's faces because they don't want them. They say, oh, just because you're in there, you shouldn't be implicated and blah, 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 blah. But they want to put Bill Clinton's face out there and his pictures out there. And it's like, wait a minute. We know that Donald Trump is in there a lot more than Bill Clinton. So what is this whole thing of Bill Clinton? They're playing in our faces. They are punking us. They think that people care that oh my God, they're going to be embarrassed that Bill Clinton is in. But nobody's embarrassed that Bill Clinton is in there. Bill Clinton is in there and something happened, then fine. Bill Clinton deserves whatever he gets. But this isn't about Bill Clinton. And if they're trying to protect people who may be under investigation, if they are insinuating that there is something nefarious about Bill Clinton, then perhaps they should be protecting him and they shouldn't be releasing his picture. Because that's what they're doing with Donald Trump. And they're playing in your faces. They think you are stupid. They think we're stupid. We are not stupid, Pam Bondi. We are not stupid, Todd Blanche. We are not stupid, Donald Trump. We know that we know that you're in there. We don't know what you did. In part because the story hasn't been told, but also because there's no real transparency. This is not how truth behaves. People who are telling the truth, this is not how truth behaves. So I want to get straight to it. Donald Trump is in the Epstein files. We know that he is in the Epstein files. We know that much. We know that. We have known that forever. This is not speculation. It's not a rumor. It's documented history that has existed for years, that Donald Trump has been in the Epstein files. And all of a sudden, you guys, oh my God, do you think people are dumb? Yes, you do. All of a sudden, when the official files come out, Donald Trump is nowhere to be mentioned except in a photograph that you missed, and then they deleted it. Yes, that happened. And then because of the outcry, they put it back, but they said, oh, we're trying to protect victims. This has been, think about it. They think that the American people are stupid, but the American people understand just what a terrible couple of weeks, even just a week that Donald Trump has had last week. It's terrible. And the Department of Justice, they think that they're protecting Donald Trump. They're actually making you look guilty, Donald Trump. You're making Donald Trump look guilty. You're making yourself look guilty. It is a self-own. You're making Pam Bondi look guilty. You're making the FBI look guilty. And you're making it look like a cover-up. That's what you're doing. There are photos of Donald Trump with Jeffrey Epstein. There is video of Donald Trump with Jeffrey Epstein. There are public quotes about the two men with each other. There are parties. There are social connections. There are witnesses who place both of them together repeatedly over and over time. And it's not new information. So it's out there, but all of a sudden when the official files come out, it's not there. Come on. Stevie Wonder can see that. They can see what you're doing. And it has been a very bad week for Donald Trump, and he and his own appointees, his own cabinet, his own administration, they are making him look bad. And if you don't believe it, okay, here's a Republican. This is Chris Christie. Watch.
Start with you. Even by Trump standards, this was a erratic, chaotic week. Renaming the Kennedy Center, the stuff he did at the White House, the primetime speech. What's going on?
Well, first, it's so good to be here, John. And Merry Christmas to you too, Mr. President. Look, this is a pretty strange week. Just think about it. He sends out that disgraceful post on the murder of Rob Reiner and his wife, Michelle. Then he puts his name on the building named after an assassinated president. Then he gives a frenetic national TV speech filled with inaccuracies and really sounded like he was yelling at the American people that they don't get how great he's done so far. And then he puts these plaques up underneath the presidential pictures he's put on the colonnade, filled with things that you could tell just from reading them that he wrote them himself.
Read like Truth Social posts.
It did, and even figured out a way to get himself into the Andrew Jackson plaque, but as a martyr.
Right.
Worse than whatever happened to Andrew Jackson. Look, he does all this, John, in a week where 60% of the people in the country say the economy is no better under him than it was under Joe Biden. The war continues to rage on in Ukraine that he said he was going to settle in 24 hours. And Putin continues to manipulate him to deteriorate the 80-year NATO alliance. And twice now, in the past month, you've seen Republicans break from him on Capitol Hill on both the Epstein files and ACA subsidies to sign discharge petitions to repute both the Speaker and the President. It's not a strange week, John. It's an awful week. And the president better wake up to the fact that going to Rocky Mount, North Carolina is not going to solve his problems, and that he better start solving the American people's problems, or our party is going to have a big problem.
Wow. I mean, who would ever think that Chris Christie could be the voice of reason? Because Chris Christie hit the nail on the head there. Not only did he do that, not only did he hit the nail on the head when it comes to the Epstein files, but just how much of a distraction that this administration is trying to put up in order to distract, to get people off of the Epstein files. And that's not hyperbole. That's not my opinion. The evidence is there. So when the Justice Department drops what it calls a major release, and Trump is barely there, he barely shows up, people notice that. And when the president feels, his presence feels minimized, it feels fragmented, it's vague, people notice. And you know what? I'll get to the whole Kennedy Center thing. When a photo that includes Donald Trump disappears from the DOJ website, and the only public pressure, after public pressure, they put it back, people really notice that. Why did you take a photo? Look, there's a photo right there. Okay. And so I think they missed it because it was in a collage of photos. So that is the evidence that they are removing Donald Trump at every single turn. And also, I believe that they are, if you ask legal experts, this is a crime. They are not cooperating, and they're not abiding by the law and what the law set forth, saying you must release it by a certain date. That is not happening. So there's no accountability, and they don't care. Again, playing in our faces. That's where the trust breaks, because now it's not just about what's in the files. It's about what's missing from the files. It's about what keeps slipping through the cracks here. Again, his own Justice Department is making him seem like he is guilty. Here's the thing that you don't need to believe anyone. You don't need to believe anyone's theory here. You just have to use your eyes. It's not a conspiracy theory. You have to use your eyes and your common sense and your own logic. If Trump was photographed with Epstein, if Trump socialized with Epstein, if Trump spoke publicly about Epstein, if Trump moved in the same circles for years with Epstein, and the evidence was out there even before the files are released, and Trump should appear clearly, consistently, and fully in these records. And the evidence was that photograph, just one in a collage, in a whole thing of photograph, and all like when people used to keep photo albums. So you know it is there. And just when people used to keep photo albums, like that's a photo album there. And when, you know, people have frames, sometimes they have frames on their desk. We have digital frames now as well. But there he is. So not barely, not vaguely, not like a background extra. So when that doesn't happen, people are right to ask why, and people are outraged. People know. And instead of answering that question directly, the Justice Department gave us a whole lot of confusion. So why don't we talk about the deadline first, okay? December 19th. That wasn't a suggestion, as I said. That is what the law says. Congress didn't say, do your best. The law said, release the unclassified records. Explain what you withhold and why you're withholding it. Protect the victims and then provide clarity. The DOJ missed that headline, the deadline. And instead of owning that and explaining it, they dumped a pile of documents at the last minute and they acted like the volume alone equals compliance. And on Face the Nation, they were asked about the spirit of the law, and I don't understand what Margaret Brennan is asking about the spirit of the law. The law doesn't say the spirit of the law. It says to cooperate fully. And this is Ro Khanna being asked about it, and he has a very good explanation. I don't understand this question about the spirit of the law, Margaret Brennan, because that's not what's happening here, but here we go.
In these past 48 hours, we have seen the Justice Department acknowledge it's an incomplete release, but they have put out more than 13,000 files. They say more will come. This isn't everything you asked for just yet, but would you acknowledge that they are complying with the spirit, if not the intent of your law?
No, they're flouting the spirit and the letter of the law. It's very troubling, the posture that they've taken. And I won't be satisfied until the survivors are satisfied. You know, I said in the hours leading up to this release that we will know if they are complying if they implicate any of the other criminals that are involved and the suspects that are involved, that the witnesses, the victims themselves have given to the FBI, and they've never been mentioned.
Well,
They 13,000, and I think there's what, they're over 100,000 or more. Like, what are you talking about? That is not compliance. That doesn't add to compliance. Is about clarity. It's about, like, compliance means it's completeness. About accountability, like that means if you're complying, like when they say, why don't you just comply? Why didn't you just do what the officer said? That doesn't mean like somewhat complying. It doesn't mean that you fight halfway. You know, when conservatives say that about like when black men are being beaten up by police, why don't you just comply? That doesn't mean like halfway fighting with a police officer. Compliance doesn't mean halfway. It doesn't mean the spirit. And now look at what was actually released. Hundreds of pages, completely blacked out. And I see your guys' comments. You're right. That is what it did. Entire documents, unreadable. Grand jury material that a judge approved approved the release of, erased behind walls of black ink. I mean, there's no index, there's no roadmap, there's no explanation of what is missing or who decided to remove it. So I don't believe that's transparency. That is obstruction of justice, if you want to think, with, I think, better lighting. I think this is obstruction of justice. With people who come on television saying, oh, we're doing it and it's a lot and we're protecting. I think this is obstruction. And then we're going to talk about the survivors. But first, a word from our sponsors. The Don Lemon Show today is brought to you by the Freedom from Religion Foundation. As this year winds down, a lot of us are taking stock of where this country is headed. And let's be very honest about it. Christian nationalism isn't some fringe idea anymore. It's organized, it's influencing laws, schools, and courts, and it threatens the basic promise that government belongs to all of us. That's why I support the Freedom from Religion Foundation. Since 1978, FFRF has been doing the hard legal work to protect the wall between church and state. They show up when others won't. They defend non-believers, religious minorities, LGBTQ people, and anyone who believes faith should never be forced by government power. With the 2026 midterms coming, this work matters more than ever. You can help by making a tax-deductible donation before December 31st or by becoming a member. So go to ffrf.us/winter25 or text Don to 511-511 right now, okay? Because protecting democracy takes more than outrage. It takes action. It takes action. We're going to talk about the survivors in a moment, but I want you to listen to a conversation, part of a conversation that happened this morning on television. That is, what is Trump hiding? What is the Trump administration hiding? Watch.
One of the great mysteries to me and a lot of other people is we've had reporting for some time. Donald Trump is not on Epstein's list. There's nothing in there that's really damning about Donald Trump, and as Susie Wild says, not damning about Donald Trump
according to the chief
or Bill Clinton. So one of the great mysteries all along in this, not been like, what's Donald Trump hiding? What did he do? It's like, why, if he's not in these files, which all the reporting says he's not, why is he so obsessed on blocking access to the files? Is he trying to protect somebody?
Joe, you got to the actual heart of the question, and it's actually not been reported. One of the reasons Marjorie Taylor Greene got on board with Massey and my effort is she fundamentally believed that Trump was not implicated. Yeah. And she would call the president and say, look, just get these out. I don't know why you're not getting it out. And she would tell Massey and me, of course he's going to come around. And every press conference we had, we never made it about Donald Trump. We made it about the survivors. The survivors pleaded with Donald Trump. You can be a hero. No previous president has done this. Release the files. And what people are asking, and frankly, even I'm asking, is what are they hiding? Why is it that they're not releasing the draft 60-count indictment when they only charged Epstein with 2 counts? Why aren't they releasing the 82-page prosecution memo of all the implications he had with rich and powerful folks? Why are they protecting this Epstein class? And why aren't they releasing the FBI interviews? Every time they do one of these things of concealing, they're just raising further down.
They are just making it worse. To continue on with that conversation, Barbara McQuade, who is amazing, also this morning talking about the incompetence of the DOJ. Is it incompetence? Is it duplicity? Is it both? I believe that it is both. I believe it is duplicity, and I believe that it is incompetence, and I believe that they should be held accountable. Do I trust that it will in this environment? Not so much, but it could happen afterwards, and I'll tell you. But listen to Barbara McQuade.
This was an enormous task that the Justice Department was required to perform. But I'm really struck by what appears to be either incompetence or duplicity, or maybe both. Todd Blanche said, we had 200 lawyers look at this. Well, this was a hard deadline, December 19th. Maybe you needed 300. This was a law. This was not a discretionary task. And the fact that they rolled out only a portion of the documents and not all of the documents by the deadline is illegal. It was a violation of a federal statute signed into law by President Trump. There's no excuse for not producing all of it. The duplicity part is also what concerns me. Remember, there's this exception that was given to Pam Bondi. In some ways, it's understandable, but because she has characterized herself or conducted herself as Trump's personal lawyer, it gives me great suspicion, and that is an exception that allows her to withhold from production any document that pertains to an ongoing investigation. And then lo and behold, just a couple weeks before the release, at Donald Trump's direction, she announces there will be an investigation reopened against Democrats with relations with Jeffrey Epstein. Why is it then that we see all of these photos of Bill Clinton? Isn't he supposed to be the subject of an investigation? He is the person whose photos should have been withheld, not Donald Trump's or anyone else's. And then with regard to this clawback, we had documents on and then they were off again. The explanation we've heard from the Justice Department is understandable and was posted on their initial website. It said to victims or anyone else, if you find personal information here that should not have been disclosed, but did get disclosed inadvertently, please let us know immediately and we'll take it down. They've said that's what happened. They heard from victims and survivors who said, oh my gosh, you've got my date of birth in there, please take it down, whatever it was, and they did. But the odd one is the one that you mentioned, which is this photo of Bill Clinton. What Todd Blanche said is it was removed to protect victims and survivors.
Yeah.
Does that mean Donald Trump is depicted with victims and survivors? And then it was put back up with saying, no, it turns out they weren't victims and survivors after all. So that's the part where, again, incompetence or duplicity, not sure which, maybe both.
Liars. That's what they are. They're liars. Thank you, Barbara McQuaid. A great conversation. And the whole point of it is, can Pam Bondi be prosecuted? Now, you heard what Thomas Massie said, that once a new administration comes in and there is a new attorney general and there are new heads of the FBI and there are new heads of the Justice Department, that they can go and investigate the former. And I don't think it is covered by, it cannot be exonerated or pardoned. Can Pam Bondi be prosecuted? Another conversation. Listen.
So I just feel like when I hear you talk about inherent contempt or impeachment, I mean, these are words that Democrats have been really careful not to throw around, especially the impeachment word. It's come up a few times and you've seen leadership walk it back. Why is this time different? And do you have the backing of Democratic leadership to actually push forward with impeachment if it comes to that? Is that the next step when we come back in January?
It's different because it's coming from Republicans, too. It's if it was just me out there or Robert Garcia out there, it would be seen as, okay, as this is just a Democratic thing. This is going to be Thomas Massie leading it. There are a few Republicans who are on board with it, but we're not going straight to impeachment. We're starting with contempt, and the idea would be that she'd get a 30-day grace period. By the way, she's already in violation of the law. 30-day grace period to get the documents out.
30-day grace for the sergeant at arms detaining and arresting her? Because that's what it is.
Well, it would be a fine. A fine of up to $5,000 each day she doesn't get these documents out. My goal is not to destroy Pam Bondi. I didn't even know who Pam Bondi was. I've gotten to know these survivors. And my goal is that on a personal level, these documents need to come out. Their lives were traumatized. They want these documents out, and whatever we can do to get the documents out.
And he's right. So let's talk about the survivors. That is the part that people need to sit with today. The survivors are saying that this harmed them. They put out a letter. If you want, the survivors wrote a letter. They are saying that their names were exposed. They're saying that they weren't consulted. They're saying that they still don't have access to their own files. They're saying that the Justice Department violated the law. So when you hear from the survivors, that's not noise. It's not people being noisy or people who have nothing to do with it. That is the people at the center. They are the people at the center of the crime, telling you the system failed them again and again, making Donald Trump look guilty. And instead of stopping, instead of fixing it, the DOJ kept going and they acted irritated that anyone dared to ask questions. And every single news organization, the caveat is, well, there's no evidence that Donald Trump did anything wrong. Okay, we know that. Why do you keep saying that? What are you afraid of? But there is evidence that makes this appear that it is some sort of cover-up. So who and what is he protecting? Why is his administration and him, why are him and his administration and him, why does it seem like they're covering something up and they're hiding and they're protecting PDF files? Because that's not accountability. That's not accountability. And so you have this now, as you heard the conversation, these selective redactions that are going on. And so behind these selective redactions and all of this black ink and black squares, that's how power is hiding in plain sight. Selective redaction isn't neutral. It is power. It's power. If you want to protect the powerful without lying outright, this is how you do it. You don't destroy the documents. You don't deny they exist. You just release just enough to say that you complied, and then you black out the connections. You remove the names that matter. You break the timelines, and then you strip the financial trails. Because all of it should be, these files should be an indication. It should be a roadmap as to what happened. Who's guilty? Who's not? who should be implicated, who shouldn't. Just because you show up in a picture with Jeffrey Epstein does not mean that you did something wrong, that you were a part of anything that was wrong. And so that same thing holds true for Donald Trump. If you believe that, then why on earth are you redacting information and photographs that show Donald Trump with ties or in photographs with Jeffrey Epstein and others who are involved? This is what you're doing. You're leaving fragments that never quite connect. And so I don't think that, well, I do think that they're being sloppy, but they're doing it by design. And it's all really backwards. Pages that matter for accountability, gone. Pages that could show patterns, that is erased. And then it looks like transparency because, as whatever they say, the spirit of the law, whatever the fuck that means. And meanwhile, survivors say that their names were left exposed. So that tells you exactly who this release was designed to protect, because they're pulling back the stuff where Donald Trump is implicated. So now let's get back to Donald Trump, because this is where the DOJ's explanation really falls apart. Donald Trump did not just cross paths with Epstein once. You guys know that. This wasn't some accidental photo at a fundraiser or at an event, a Hollywood event or a big party. People have those accidental photos. I told you about mine. People have those when you go to those big events. It does not mean that you know the person. It just means that you happen to be in the same room or at the same party with them. So, but with Donald Trump, that was years of overlapping social life, parties, private events, familiarity. We've seen it. We've all heard it. So stop treating us like we're children. Stop treating me as if I'm a child. Explain this to me as if I'm a reasonable adult. How does someone with that level of documented proximity barely appear in a release like this? How does that happen? How does someone photographed repeatedly suddenly become marginal or invisible? How does that happen? How does someone whose name has been publicly connected for decades feel so minimized in these official records? This is all by design, in my opinion. That doesn't happen by accident. And when one of the few files that includes him disappears from the DOJ website, you can say that it's routine all you want. But again, I tell you, people are not stupid. If the photograph was sensitive, if it should not have been posted, if it was inappropriate, it should have been flagged publicly. If it was a mistake, then explain it. Instead, it vanished quietly. And that's what people recognize: control. Because now they're not even being subtle about it. They are just deleting photographs and only putting them back when they're, and information, only putting it back for this one because there was public outcry. And it was only because they got caught. At least 16 files disappeared from DOJ site for Epstein documents, including a Trump photo. Once you start quietly changing the record after the fact, trust will evaporate. That's why I say I don't trust it. The DOJ is now saying the removal had nothing to do with Trump. They say it was caution, that they were protecting victims. You heard what Barbara McQuaid says. Fine. Then why don't you show your work? Explain why it was posted. Explain why it was pulled. And explain who made the call. I think there needs to be, I don't know if there can be a special prosecutor in this. I don't know if there could be, if they can, I think they should be called in front of Congress and the Senate. There should be investigations, public hearings to explain how they made these calls. Explain why it only came back after public pressure. Explain how you released the information in the way that you released it. I think that's what should happen. They have not done that. And every time they don't explain, the suspicion just grows. This is where institutions always get it wrong. And the cover-up is worse than the crime every single time. They think that silence is, that people are going to just be silent about this, about their vagary, about them being so vague. People don't trust their authority at all. They do not. Trust comes from being honest, from clarity, from people showing people you have nothing to hide. And right now, it seems like they have a whole lot to hide. Here's Thomas Massey.
I mean, on another network this morning, Democratic Senator Tim Kaine said impeachment or contempt, it is premature, Congressman Khanna. And the Deputy Attorney General said, bring it on. They don't seem to be taking this very seriously. And if you just don't have the math in the Senate, including at least now, this Democratic senator not being convinced, doesn't that sort of show that you're at the limit of pressure?
No, we only need the House for inherent contempt, and we're building a bipartisan coalition, and it would fine Pam Bondi for every day that she's not releasing these documents. I'll tell you why. I've talked to the survivors, why this is such a slap in the face. One of the survivors said they released her name accidentally, but they still have not released the FBI file about the people who abused her at her request. And the problem here is that there are rich and powerful people. We all know this. There are 1,200 victims. They're rich and powerful people who either engaged in this abuse, covered it up, or were on this island. And what the American people want to know is, who are these people? And instead of holding them accountable, Pam Bondi is breaking the law. And this is the corrupt system, the Epstein class that people are sick of. So I believe we're going to get bipartisan support in holding her accountable, and a committee of Congress should determine whether these redactions are justified or not.
That's why I believe there should be public hearings. And right now, this looks like a system bending itself to avoid discomfort and instead of delivering truth. I mean, not even that. It looks like, again, it is just a cover-up. This seems like Watergate to me. This seems Watergate territory. And I don't think I'm being hyperbolic about that. Because especially when you look, Watergate was about covering something up, about a president lying, about, breaking in and all those things so that you can remove files and evidence of nefarious or illegal activity. That's what Watergate was about. This, I think, is about something that is as old as time. Politicians are corrupt. Public figures are corrupt. The people who are in power, the oligarchs, the wealthy people, the power class, the rich class, they cover up things all the time. How do you think that most people, let's be honest, most of the big institutions made their money? Right? Remember, Prohibition. People were selling alcohol and liquor and all that, and that's how people made their money, off of the backs of slaves, in all kinds of nefarious ways. So that is nothing new. But trafficking children, doing things with people who are not consenting, whether they are children reaching the adult age or even at the adult age, if it's not a consenting adult and you're trafficking them or you're using people, this is of a whole different level. In some ways, it's bigger than Watergate because you are abusing and taking advantage of the least of these. This is child crime or crimes against children. So let's be really clear about something. No one is asking the DOJ to invent crimes about anyone or to implicate people unnecessarily. No one is asking them to accuse anyone without evidence. No one is asking them to endanger survivors. People are asking only simply for the truth, all of it, clearly, without favoritism, and from journalists without fear or favor. And the same thing from our leaders. And that is not happening. And you have even Republicans like Rand Paul who are saying something doesn't smell right. Here's Rand Paul.
Your Kentucky colleague Thomas Massey obviously was the force that forced this release. He is saying that the Attorney General is violating the law and could, in fact, eventually be prosecuted for doing so. What's your reaction to this partial release?
We know I've supported transparency on the Epstein files from the beginning. I've voted repeatedly to release them. I think it's a good idea. I think that trust in government is at a low ebb, and that people need to trust that justice is the same whether you're rich or poor. And people tend to believe that some rich people got off scot-free in the Epstein case, in the Epstein files. So I think it all should be released. I think it's a big mistake. I mean, look, the administration has struggled for months and months with something they initially ginned up and then sort of tried to tamp down. So any evidence or any kind of indication that there's not a full reveal on this will just plague them for months and months more. So my suggestion would be give up all the information, release it. You know, what's going to happen to people if they don't, that will play out over time. But my suggestion to them is be transparent and release everything the law requires of you.
Doesn't look like that's exactly happening yet. But
Right. Oh, God, Jonathan Karl, the best. Yeah, even Republicans are saying something is up. And you haven't heard the last of it. What about Ghislaine Maxwell, who's also in the photographs, who is also in prison right now? We'll hear from her, but first a word from our sponsors. Support comes from 120 Life. Here's a number that should stop you for a second. 1 in 2 adults has high blood pressure. That's half the people at your holiday table right now. So that's why I want to tell you about 120 Life. It is a once-a-day, great-tasting, functional drink designed to support healthy blood pressure. It's not a pill. It's not complicated. You drink it daily, track your numbers at home, and watch what happens. What I like is how simple it is. Even during the chaos of the holidays, this fits into real life. The powdered version has just 1 gram of sugar, doctors recommend it, and over 1,000 health professionals support it. And yes, it actually tastes good. Right now, you can try 120 Life risk-free and get 20% off. Just use the code DON at checkout at 120life.com. If you don't see lower numbers in 2 weeks, you get a full refund. That's 120life.com, and the code is DON. Nothing to lose but the numbers. And thank you so much to our sponsors. So look, when the release feels so engineered like this to dilute someone's involvement or whatever it is, whatever they are hiding or whoever they're trying to protect, instead of to illuminate and to give people who have the right to transparency, people are going to draw conclusions about this. And it's not emotional conclusions. These are logical conclusions. Don't play in our faces and think like, oh, we're not going to know what's up. Here's the real damage right here. By handling this the way that they did, the DOJ didn't calm anything. They inflamed it. They didn't restore any trust. They shattered whatever little trust that people have in the government right now. And they did not protect the survivors. You saw that they just re-traumatized the survivors. And so everything that they say is questioned. And people look at it with like a jaundiced eye, like side eye, like, wait a minute, are they telling me the truth? And they want to know what is behind all of these actions that make you seem so guilty. Why did you, and I think a very good question is, why did you treat Ghislaine Maxwell the way that you did? And you put her into a place that is less restrictive, that is more comfortable, and you seem to be giving her some sort of sweetheart deal at least when it comes to where she is imprisoned. Watch this, Todd Blanche.
Warren, we're almost out of time. I do want to ask you about Ghislaine Maxwell, who was, of course, convicted in 2021 for her role in helping Jeffrey Epstein traffic his victims. In July, you interviewed her in Florida, where she was serving a 20-year sentence in federal prison. Just a week later, Maxwell was moved to a more permissive prison camp in Texas. Why was she moved just days after you interviewed her, Mr. Blanche?
So that's a Bureau of Prison Security issue that I will not talk about.
Did you have anything to do with it? Did you have anything to do with it?
Let me finish. First of all, I am responsible for the Bureau of Prisons. So every decision that they make lands on my desk to the extent it needs to. But just let me talk about the security issue. At the time that I met Ms. Maxwell, there was a tremendous amount of scrutiny and publicity towards her. And the institution she was in, she was suffering numerous threats against her life. So the BOP is not only responsible for putting people in jail and making sure they stay in jail, but also for their safety. And so she was moved. She is in federal prison. She was in federal prison before. She's in federal prison now. She's doing 20 years because she was convicted. And the fact that she was moved, she might be moved to another institution tomorrow if security requires it. And that's true of any federal inmate across this country.
Are you guys buying that? Right. Blah, 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 blah. Here's what we're left with. This is a simple truth that we are left with, okay? Donald Trump, hear me clearly, is in the Epstein story. He is in the Epstein files. That's not up for debate. The only question is why the Justice Department seems so determined to make that fact as unclear as possible. And until they answer that clearly and completely, this story does not go away. They just keep fumbling this, and they keep making, again, Donald Trump seem more guilty, seem guiltier. I mean, it's crazy, as if he has something to hide. That's what they're making it appear like. Justice does not fear daylight. If you believe that you are innocent and there's evidence that you are, you say, hey, look, here it is. Because you don't need to edit the truth. Accountability doesn't arrive in pieces. So the system right now appears to be bending to protect power. And that tells you exactly who this system is serving. And right now, the American people are being asked to trust the process that looks like it is designed to do the opposite. They shouldn't feel that way, because you cannot demand trust. It's earned. And this Justice Department has not earned anyone's trust, and neither has Donald Trump. And that's my word this morning. I don't know how you feel, but like my mom, when she sang the solo in the church, I write about my book, and she got up there and she said, I don't know what you come to do. I come to tell the truth this morning, and that is my truth. And I don't feel like the Justice Department, our government, is being truthful with us. I don't know what they come to do, but I feel like they came to lie and to protect powerful people. That's what I believe. If you want to know anything about the Don Lemon Show, go to donlemon.com. There it is right there. You can check out at the top. That's where we're going to be on New Year's Eve. Lots in store for New Year's Eve. Stand by for announcement coming this week. Oh my gosh, I have a tumbler of coffee because I have so much work to do. I slacked off a little bit this weekend. I'm telling you, I'm just being honest. I needed it. Do you guys understand that? Do you ever have like a weekend like that where you just like, I can't? And I just needed to zone out. And so that's what I did. So check out, you can click there. You can purchase tickets, especially if you're in the New Orleans area, surrounding area, or if you want to fly in. We have lots of folks who are flying in, and it's going to be great. You go to DBA or the Spotted Cat, a street party. It is going to be. And so it'll be a celebration. This is fun. It's going to be fun. You're not going to nothing outrageous. I'm kidding. But it's going to be fun. Okay. And it'll be a New Orleans New Year's Eve, the best. Okay, so go back out to donlemon.com, and anywhere you can catch us, check us out on, you can check us out on YouTube, you can check us out on Twitch, you can check us out on Substack, anywhere you get streaming, check us out, like and subscribe. And we stay viable by you becoming a member or you subscribing. Subscriptions are free. Memberships are extremely reasonable, even more reasonable than most folks who are out here. So anyways, so there you go. The other thing is, check out the merch. We've got our New Year's Eve holiday box that you can celebrate the New Year's Eve with us. Also, if you don't want the box, you can just get the champagne flute. I think there are just a couple left, and toast with us on New Year's Eve. I think today is the last day that you can get it to guarantee that it's going to be on time. Okay, so make sure you check that out. That's our champagne flute. But also we have New Year's Eve box. And if you're at home, if you can show that, Andy, if you're at home, you can celebrate the New Year with us with the New Year's Eve. Where's the box? Did they sell out? Maybe they sold out.
Must be.
What? Did they sell out of the New Year's Eve box?
The boxes are sold out. Yes, I believe.
No way. Oh, I'm sorry, guys. What about the
And I think we only have 5 flutes left. 4 or 5 flutes left. So.
Oh, come on. Okay, well, get them now so that you can celebrate. You can have a toast with us. And those are the our ornaments. People love this ornament. Every time I give it to people and they go, oh my God, that is the cutest thing that I've ever seen. Okay, so there you go, everyone. Go to donlemon.com, click on merch, and you can get this fabulous t-shirt as well, fabulous long shirt. Okay, so look, be informed without being inundated. I have lots of work to do. I'm going to see you back here at 5 p.m. Eastern time here on the Don Lemon Show on the Don Lemon channel. Until I see you then, I want you to turn the TV off. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Your support means the world to us. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss a show. We're live every weekday at 10 a.m. and 5 p.m. Eastern time with new clips dropping at 2 p. and 8 p. And if you want even more Don Lemon Show content, join the Lemon community. Members get exclusive posts, behind-the-scenes videos, and live chats just for you. So hit the join button or visit our channel page to sign up. Thanks again for all your love and your support, and I'll see you next time.